The Premier League title is looming for Manchester City, with just 2 tests remaining before the season's champions are decided. Pep Guardiola's side currently hold the lead above Liverpool by a single point, with a common belief being that City must win all of their fixtures to lift the trophy on May 12. Remarkably, City have done exactly that domestically since losing 2-1 to Newcastle at the end of January, and that streak has to continue for just 2 more matches. The next meeting on the calendar, though, is arguably the last major test, as it's reasonable to suggest that Brighton on the final day will be relatively comfortable in terms of securing a win. Rodgers Leicester City make the trip to Manchester on Monday night, and ahead of the contest, it's interesting to note how the Northern Irishman appears to be shaping his team similarly to Guardiola. One of the main features of play demonstrated consistently by City is the way in which they effectively attack with a bank of 5 to an extent, as pictured below. Often, Raheem Sterling will occupy one flank, with Bernardo Silva on the other, and Kevin De Bruyne and David Silva then operating as roaming central midfielders, followed by Sergio Aguero, who positions himself slightly ahead of those 4. This offensive bank of 5 provides constant problems for opposing teams, particularly those that employ back 4 systems. The reason for this is because City's bank of 5 simply outnumbers the defensive bank of 4, and it results in problematic situations developing, such as that pictured below. In the example, one of Burnley's 4 defenders has opted to close down Bernardo, but by doing so that's opened up a channel for perhaps Aguero or Kevin De Bruyne to dart into. In basic terms, this is the generic issue that Guardiola's system poses to back 4 defenses, and it's largely why many opposing managers decide to play with a back 5. Interestingly, though, Rodgers appears to be instilling a similar trait at Leicester. In all but one of the fixtures under Rodgers, Leicester have formed a 4-1-4-1 shape, and on paper, that's different to City's common 4-3-3. However, the 2 players that Rodgers has consistently deployed ahead of Wilfred Ndidi in the lone defensive midfield slot are Maddison and Youri Tielemans, and it's reasonable to label both of those as playmakers. In most cases, Premier League managers would perhaps opt for a bit more steel or differentiation, but Rodgers has recognized his 2 most creative talents, and he's been deploying them similarly to how Guardiola has used the likes of Silva and De Bruyne, shown below. Evidently, both Maddison and Tielemans occupy advanced positions once the ball reaches the final third at Leicester, with Harvey, Barnes and Demarai Gray on both flanks also progressing forwards, similarly to Sterling, Bernardo, or Leroy Sane. Ultimately, the offensive bank of 5 that is present at City also now appears evident at Leicester, shown in the graphic pictured below. Since Rodgers has introduced his 4-1-4-1 system, Leicester have faced a back 4 in every match apart from against Newcastle, in which Rafa Benitez utilized a back 5. Leicester are averaging 2.6 goals per match when facing back four systems, with Newcastle being the only side to prevent Rodgers' team from scoring. Overall, Leicester appear to essentially be developing into a City light to an extent, with similar patterns and features in the final third. Given that a back five appears to nullify many of the offensive threats posed by both Rodgers and Guardiola, it may make sense for either coach to consider a temporary switch ahead of Monday's contest.